He's been working on it a lot.
Have your attention, please. We're gonna call to order the Plan and Zoning Committee for the 27th of this month. And, the first thing we'll do is approve of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any discussion on the minutes? All found correct? Please be all correct.
sir.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do we have anybody from the public wants to make public comment? Going once, going twice. Yes,
It's a
sir.
beautiful day, thank you.
John, you're a great American. I don't care what they say about your mouth, you're a great American. Okay, we're gonna jump over to, and I wanna prelude everything. We got 4 different items tonight. I wanna prelude everything. We got, I came down to the courthouse today and we worked on, some numbers and they're here. We're gonna get, Ms. Breeze, Commissioner Reed, to give us a little brief on that in a few minutes, and we're gonna get around to all the other items, but let's kind of keep ourselves focused and get on through this. There's another meeting after this one, so. And we'll start with the A1 zone resolution recommendation, for discussion. There's a letter you have there that Chris Luber signed. We had our meeting with Chris Lawless, Chris Luber, myself had a meeting a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And Chris, in his infinite way, explained all things this side of the sun, and I could put that in writing. And he put it in that letter, and the letter speaks for itself. He has to have a certain amount of density to support financially the running the water lines and the taps and all that sort of thing. And so with that said, any discussion we want to have on that, I talked to Bobby before everybody else got here. Bobby said he has no problem going back like we were at the 40,000, but that, I just want to kick it out for a few minutes here for everybody. Any discussion anybody wants to make, and then let's make a decision, move on to the next item. So, you want to start, Tommy?
I'd be strictly opposed going back to 40,000,
Okay.
but the 60,000 is a fair middle ground for everybody involved. A1 needs to be larger than R1.
Any
That's
other
just
comments?
simple planning, right, Chris?
Typically, yes, sir.
Yes, that's why it was proposed. Now, I agree with maybe we got too carried away.
Where'd you get that 60,000?
He's
You
trying
all-
to find middle ground, that's
You
what.
all
Took about a year.
directed, you all directed me to find a middle ground from what it was to what it
Oh, you
is
did a good
now,
job,
and I
Chris. You did a great job.
literal.
Great job.
You did.
Any further comment regarding that? Reducing the 80 back to 60? Falling in more in line?
I do need to tell you that this comes from, this did go before planning commission on March 21st. It gets pushed back to you with no recommendation or anything.
In other words, we left it like it was, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, the planning commission wants to leave it like it is.
Currently.
Was that what happened?
Well, they did not,
Act
thought
on it.
you-
We didn't
I
act.
thought,
they just, they
Hey, no.
made a motion to not act on the resolution as presented before them was the 60,000. They did not make a recommendation,
But they-
negative recommendation.
are they waiting on us to do something, you think?
Well, it will not come, unless you direct me otherwise, it will not go back to planning.
They consider, you're saying they
They
consider.
have considered it, which is what's required via state law.
So by them not forwarding a recommendation, we have nothing to consider from the planning commission.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From the planning commission?
Because we didn't change it the first time, right, Christopher?
You made
left-
recommendations the first time, and then this board considered them, and then it was changed in the, on the floor in other directions.
Although y'all didn't make any decision, was there any comments made? Pro or con? Sure.
Yeah, there was some.
Not bad. I would say they did make a decision. They decided to send it back with no recommendation.
Were there more pros than cons?
I don't think they really wanted to change it in the first place 2 years
They
ago.
did not, that's correct.
I think that was the stand on it. Well, they didn't want to get wrapped up in it again.
They're also apprehensive because the lawsuit that's pending on this, they were questioning whether or not this would bring them into it if they were to make a recommendation. So that's kind of their stance. And I talked with Mike.
Libertarian stance.
Yes, that's right.
I have to look at them as a whole board. I'll speak.
You're a politician, aren't you?
I am not.
He's learning.
But I talked with Mike before that, and he kind of directed me, as long as they're not increasing, making it what the appeal for the court case was, and correct me if I'm wrong in this, there shouldn't be any repercussions on the planning commission if they're getting it closer to where it was originally.
Council, you have any comments?
Well, I was just gonna say, the lawsuit, it's not a rule, but it's a policy we've followed for years. If, I'll pick on Robert, if he brings something in there and he wants a zoning change recommendation, but he's in a fight with his neighbor, we ain't gonna touch it while that fight's going, if it's in court. So I think some thought because this is in court and we're the defendant, we shouldn't touch it. That's a little different animal than Robert and his neighbor having a lawsuit. But in any event, they didn't act on it, and I don't think that prohibits us from making a change or however you wanna do it.
I don't know where the document was I saw, but I saw some document a week or two ago that had 60,000 square feet. It may have been
It
yours.
was in minutes, I think,
Okay.
I think.
In minutes?
I think it was in the,
Well, I had a proposed resolution, which is the same one that I just
Yeah,
handed
that's
out.
right.
Here it is, I got it.
Yeah, I didn't change anything because they made no recommendation, so this was the same thing that,
did you propose to them?
yep, that is a literal middle ground from what it is. And they didn't make any recommendations, so I just showed you the exact same thing. Otherwise, I would just be bringing you the language that's in the existing zoning ordinance, and you all would.
What's the pleasure of the committee?
I'll make a motion to change it to 60,000.
We have a motion to change it back to 60,000. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. Do you have any further discussion? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to speak on behalf of District 9.
Yes, sir.
People of District 9 have spoken overwhelmingly to me about this. I've asked their opinions, and they are very opposed to change. I'm opposed to change. And A1 is, with the exception of the city of Watertown, is all of my district. And I would argue that I have the most A1 in all of the county. And so the people that live in A1 do not want this changed.
Okay, thank you.
They want
There.
it, how they want it.
They want it to stay like it is at
2
80,000.
2 acres,
Yes.
80,000. Chris Lawless, Chris Looper himself met a while back, as I said, and he has a density problem perhaps. Do you want to address this, Chris, before we?
I mean, I'd be glad to give a quick summary, and I didn't bring it with me. I'm on vacation today, but I'm here.
Everybody got a copy of your letter?
Yeah, what I did is, this whole thing in zoning is extremely complicated, and it definitely impacts not only the citizens out there, but us, also our ability to provide water and public sewer. So I looked at our density of connections we have out there, and we presently have 24 connections per mile pipe across 350 miles of water main. I started looking at those rural areas, trying to get water out there. It needs to be fresh water. It needs to be safe drinking water in accordance with EPA regulations. And we get really low density of people, then the water literally goes stale, you might say. So as I looked at our numbers, it made a lot better sense to me as a water provider that you increase that density. It increases the probability to get water in the areas that you represent that are unserved. By going down to like 40,000 square foot, that helps us keep our density up to keep the water fresh. And then on the larger lots that do not have access for public water, I made a recommendation, basically if they're on a well and a conventional septic system, go to 80,000, keep it at 80,000 square feet. Go to 40,000 on public water. And then if a developer wants to move with public sewer, give them an incentive, and that's why I proposed 35,000 square feet, so that we can get public sewer out in those areas. Of course, it's the step systems, it's a standard system we have. You're not gonna see big pipe sewer going out in those areas. It's not gonna happen in the solid rock and the capacity issues, and TDEC doesn't want anything going to waters of the state. So that's why I recommend that. Yes, it conflicts with the R2 zoning, R1 zoning, but I represent well over 50% of the land mass, mostly in your area, and most of that is A1 zoning. So my opinion, do what you want with R1 zoning. I'm not overly concerned about R1 zoning. I'm concerned about A1 in our area.
Well, we got a motion on the floor in a second, we're in discussion period, and you think you need more density, and I think you representing the people think you have less density, so, it's on the table. Any further discussion from the committee? We have a motion and a second. Further discussion, no further discussion, all in favor say aye. It's 60,000 feet, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay?
No.
No.
We got two noes. Okay. Anything else on that? Next thing that we spent 2.5 hours, one reason I put 2.5 hours on today, close to that, was, trying to calculate what AFT would do to us if it was changed, moved, added, whatever. You have two sheets of paper there in front of you. Lauren, if you will, I asked her to take, can you put your briefing in like 5 minutes?
I can.
Okay.
I can.
Okay,
I
you,
promise.
everybody laughing at Lauren, I don't know why.
I know. I'm sorry. I have a lot of information.
Okay.
I try to share it.
Okay.
That's all it's
Well,
about.
if you'll get these two pieces of paper, lady, Deborah, put them like that right
Yeah,
there, she'll.
see, it's okay. I know. Like I said, I have lots of information. I like to share.
Do you have a
You should.
extra copy for her?
Yeah, there should be.
Okay.
There. Hang on, John. Okay. John's got extras.
Now, what's
You
that?
got more? Okay. Everybody good? Okay. Mike, you want one?
Here, sure. Give me
Okay.
one
Here
of this.
you go.
Anybody need one? You did the math.
I did lots of math.
We did a lot of what else.
Oh, yeah.
He's got the clock on, you just saying.
Here you go. All right. Okay. Is my clock starting now?
History, go.
You ready? Okay. All right, so if you look at this first sheet, first, that top right there, that top graph, that breaks down 2019 through 2024, the annual totals of single-family AFT permits, along with commercial, gives you your total AFT for 6 years. So you can kind of see, 2019, we had 1,324 permits pulled. We went up quite a bit. You can see in 2020, 21, 22, 23 went up, and then came back down. In 2024, we only had 1,758 permits pulled. Okay, so with that actually generates a 6-year average number of annual permits of 2,440. That'll matter in a minute. Okay, the second graph there, that is fiscal year 2025. We've only got 8 months of data, but that breaks down that 8 months of data. So total permits since the beginning of this fiscal year is 1,470. You divide that out, and you end up with an average of 184 residential permits per month. Turn around and multiply that by 12. So projected
That's
permit total,
That's your line to the bottom of the page.
yeah, projected permit total is 2,208. Again, this will all matter in a second. All right. I didn't look at commercial, so all of the data on the next page is comparative to just the residential numbers. Just informationally, we had been budgeting $12 million a year of AFT, split 151 was usually given at 8 million and 189 was given 4. This year, because collections were down in 2024, we only budgeted 11 million in total. So again, informational. All right, second page. We numbered the columns to make it easy. All right.
Excuse me?
Jerry had me number the columns to make it simple. All right, so column 1.
We hopped on this thing today, really did.
We did,
Go ahead.
yes. So, so the question was, what if we increased AFT in $500 increments? What would that have netted us? So, column 1, there's your $500 increments from, we're at 5,000 right now, so 5,500 up to 7,500, $500 increments. Column 2, that is using FY24's total permit number, so 1,758
Which is
times.
kinda low.
It was low, but that way we can err on the side of caution from a numbers perspective. But but that's the actual number of permits for FY24. It was just lower than what we have had in previous years. All right, so 9,669,000 is what we would have netted if AFT was $5,500. Okay. Column 3, That's your FY twenty-four actual, how much we actually netted in the AFT for residential permits. Column 4, that's your difference between your actual net, and then if we had gone up to 5,500, it would have collected an additional 879,000. So you can see the rest of the data, it's set up exactly the same way with columns 1 through 4. Okay, column 5, that is with projected permits for FY '25. Okay, so remember the numbers I talked about at the beginning. So 2,208 projected permits, again multiplied by the 5,500, that gives you 12,144,000. Math goes exactly the same, the rest of column 5. Column 6, that's the FY '25 projected total revenue in residential permits, again, utilizing 184 permits a month times 12 months times 5,000. So that's where the $11,025,000 comes from. Column 7, exactly the same as column 4, with projected versus, projected at 5,000 versus projected at 5,500, all the way up to 7,500, and you can see the potential increase depending upon what AFT is. Now, bottom little table up there is exactly the same thing, broken down with just using that 6-year permit average to give you total collections. And I didn't compare it to a particular year because again, it's a 6-year average. So you can take those numbers and compare again.
The years were all over the board, but this is the
Yes.
average of those 6 years, 2440.
Correct. And you can see on the front page, you can see the totals of the different 6 years of data. Those are the actual permit numbers. So, do we have any questions? No? Okay.
I have a question. On the average, or on the actual amount per year,
Mhm.
when they went down, was there a particular reason they went down? Had we raised the AFT at that time? Is
No.
that why they went down, or, I know they went up way back here, because we raised the AFT and we gave them 30 or 60 days to respond.
That's why that's.
And that's why it peaked at 3,300, I believe.
So if you look, in
Well-
2020, AFT was increased from 3,000 to 5,000 effective October 15th, 2019. So that's where that is.
Right,
It's
and
on the
that's why
sheet.
we got more.
The reason why, according to,
No, we got a flux of AFT fees in 2019 to beat the October.
Exactly,
31st.
that's what I'm trying to get at.
All the ones in 2020 are true.
Yeah, they're okay in
AFT.
2020.
yeah,
Thanks.
But that was fiscal
Right.
year
That-
2020.
yeah, this is fiscal year 2020. So that bump in fiscal year 2020 would have incorporated what John was saying. But again, that was just that 1 year. So what he's talking about, I think, is the decrease in 2024, where we went from 2,400 permits down to 1,758. And I think that actually, my understanding from the building permit department, their feeling is that it's a combination of mortgage rates going up and building costs going up, at which point people are just not building.
Well, it was in a time that we were very worried about going into a recession.
Right.
Right.
So that's why you went down to 1758. Now again, I mean, just from a projected standpoint, it looks like we're gonna go up again, but we're still not hitting, over 3,000 permits a year like we were in, 20 and 22.
Is there any estimate on how much it would go down if we raised it $1,000 or $2,000?
I don't think
Is
it
there-
would go down because of AFT fees.
Why
You don't
would
think
say
it'd
that?
change because
If
they,
interest rates will make them
No.
go down,
It-
why would raising the fees not make them go down?
It's
Well, because you're talking about $1,000 over a 30-year mortgage. You're not talking
but-
about,
What,
You're not talking about that at all. You're talking about that to the individual buyer, by the person who actually has to go out and borrow the money to do the development. You have to multiply that all out, and that's front-end cost on your development. It's not the same thing.
okay,
You're
yes.
talking about the end of what it would look like. I'm talking
Right.
about when, if,
Start now.
when you're, in my opinion, the reason that we're losing so much is not because the lot size went down. Most of these permits are in apartments in Lebanon and in PUDs in Mount Juliet. That's
You're
where they're
correct.
coming from. They have nothing to do with lot size because lot size don't have anything to do with PUDs. The reason that there's not more apartments in Lebanon and more PUDs in Mount Juliet is because of the interest rates. And it's because the people can't go out and borrow the money up front
Interest rates and cost of materials.
and cost of materials.
Yes.
And so it's terrible right now. And so if we add to that, it's going to affect these numbers. They're not going, just by multiplying them all out. Now, I can't say if they'll go down a whole lot. I can't say they're gonna go 50%. I wouldn't say that. But it's gonna have an effect on them.
Well, anything will have an effect.
It's gonna have
Emotional
an
effect.
effect.
Well,
But what
I
our
have no
intention was,
stance, I'm just giving you data.
what our intention was is to grind out some data, some numbers, let the committee look at it, the committee won't make a recommendation, or not make a recommendation, it doesn't make any difference to us, we just want to give you enough. Say the committee won't come back and say, we want to do a one-time 1,000, then you come down to the second line, you got 6,000, but if you don't want to do anything, that's fine too. And this is just data for your knowledge, and if you want to take action on it, then yes, sir.
I'd like to ask one question and sort of make a statement at the same time.
Sure.
This is very much worth pursuing, but why are we not considering commercial in a huge way with what's happening in this county? We need to
think we
consider
can.
both,
We
we need
just-
to consider
We
both.
did that since we did this.
Yeah, I think we can. I
And
just,
we need to
I got
revisit it right now again.
so I just got asked to put together residential
No,
data.
it's not, I'm not throwing it at you.
So, yes,
But that needs to be considered at the same time.
Well, yeah.
Right,
If we,
right now, commercial AFT is the same price as your building.
Yeah.
I
So if your
understand.
building permit's $25,000, that's what your AFT.
We're trying to generate
That's tough.
income on this,
Commercial.
and we have a huge amount of space fixing to start right out in our part of the world.
we ought to be doubling it for commercial.
Pardon?
We ought to be doubling.
That's what I'm saying, we need to be
Commercial.
having that conversation at the
Well,
same.
y'all have it right now, y'all discuss it,
I'm
let's
just-
all work
I'm
it
not
out.
We need the numbers in front of us to say what we want to do, but.
Oh, I know.
Well,
thanks.
Lauren?
Even, yes,
How
sir.
can we generate the numbers on commercial?
Well, if you double it, I mean, you just take.
So it's building permits, and I think that's based on square footage, right?
Yeah, it's based off square footage, which I
Yeah.
think it's 70.
So,
That's residential.
Yeah, I mean, we could go back and try to kind of estimate, maybe, I don't know, I mean, if you look, I mean, there's not a huge number of commercial permits that actually are pulled every year.
But even in doubling it, doesn't really give us much financial.
That generates.
Right,
But that
Yes.
come Garrett, wouldn't it?
do what?
No, that would go through Chris Richard. Well, I mean,
Okay.
the adequate facilities tax would be done at the commission for, you all can make a resolution, but right now, what's in the private act is it's equal to the commercial building permit fee with a minimum cost of $5,000 for a commercial
Mhm.
facility.
Did we not tie it?
If you all change that, you can change it, and then that would amend the private act, they would just collect more over there. I mean, Chris doesn't need, you're not asking to increase his building permit fee, that would need to go through Chris.
Yeah.
But I was talking, who's collecting the data? Be Chris?
Yeah, his office collects all that data.
You got a question over here?
Yes, sir, I got a question on, I just remember a couple of years ago when we changed the commercial to 5,000. Did we not also pass a resolution that said that no matter what we do to the residential, then the commercial just follows suit automatically? Is that not what we did?
No way to do that.
I don't think you
It's
can.
not apples to apples.
For some reason,
One's
I had that
based
in my
on
mind.
just
that
the
we did
building
that.
lot, the other's based on square footage of the
Council.
building.
Yeah.
He's thinking,
I
they
would-
We did raise it though.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We
did
did
raise
raise
it,
both.
But
But I thought at the same time we said the minimum is,
the
I mean-
one thing I would like to say about the commercial while we're having this discussion, maybe we should consider a square footage amount that, a minimum, a high and a low. In other words, you don't wanna hurt a small business owner trying to open a commercial business with a few thousand square feet. But that's not what I'm talking about.
I'm talking about the warehouse.
I hear you darn right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
I
have like
wanna keep
a square
somebody-
footage minimum, if you're under, let's say, 1,000 square foot, you are in this zone.
I
If
don't know
you're
what the number is.
20,000 square foot, then you're hitting the high end. I agree. Cause then you're going after big business.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
big
that's
business
what I'm
wants to
not-
come
I
here.
wouldn't wanna hurt somebody trying
Yeah.
to
Or
start a
especially-
business.
Cause you're getting local people with that smaller square footage. But our big developers that are coming in, that's the people that we need to go after. That's money from California that we should be snagging.
Colorado,
If you
Yeah.
have
New
a,
York.
I can just tell you, speaking from experience, if you have a local business that builds a 1,500 to 2,000 square foot warehouse on the back there, I can let you know right now, if you double the added facilities tax, if you double the permit fee, that would still be less than the $5,000 they have to pay now.
Did you
Well,
have something
see,
else, Lauren?
I'd love to see all that in front of
Well,
us.
Yeah.
Do you have, Lauren, do you have?
Well, I guess my question would be with, cause commercial AFT is actually tied to building permit fees, like we talked about.
Yeah.
So I would go back and look and see, I think, is that, Mike, in the private act? I think it is, but I'm not sure. And if it's separate, can we do anything to it? If it is within the private act, what are we really allowed to do without compromising the possibility, of the private act?
The private
So
act
that's my
talks,
question
the
too.
private act talks more about what vote it takes to make the change. It doesn't say you can't differentiate between building permits for commercial and residential. You've got the
Right.
authority to do that, and that's what we did last time.
The commission can do either or.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've already done it.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there thinking.
So-
Oh, I guess my question is this, does it have to stay tied to building permit fees per the private act? Or can you do commercial AFT at a different
You can,
scale?
Different time.
you can.
And, make sure it doesn't have to mirror your building
Yeah,
permit
yeah, yeah.
fees.
I
What,
don't, it doesn't, I think
Okay,
that's a stipulation
that was
we
my
put
question.
in there,
It was.
to make it something simple and easy to track.
Okay,
how you do that, Chris?
so you could
Is
untie.
that like a square foot?
It's, yeah,
Minimum
it's
base.
based off the square foot, I mean, and I don't know the exact commercial terms, but once you get to a certain square footage, like, and I don't know that, I was not prepared to talk about the commercial building permit fees. But if it's $1.10 per square foot, once you get to 100,000 square feet, it goes down to like 70 cents a square foot, so in
And we may
essence,
be
your
afraid to
facilities
change that.
tax goes down to 70 cents a square foot once you get above 100,000 square feet. And then there's another threshold at 250, and I mean, it gets down to all.
Be careful.
Do
Gets into
do we
lead,
need
yeah.
to put this in advance for 30 days
Yeah.
and study this thing?
Yeah,
A little bit,
so.
it appears
Yes,
to
sir.
me that we do. Who,
Make a motion that we hold off 30 days,
defer
get some figures
30
in front of
days
us.
while
Some
we
figures
study?
in front of us before we make any
Can,
decisions.
Second.
So what do you, yeah,
can you, got a motion second, Chris, can you,
Tell
generate,
Chris.
get the what?
Tell Chris, the other Chris.
Well, too many Chris.
No, he's not here.
no, they're just
Yeah,
pointing.
hit it over the corner back. Can you bring the scale and your recommendation and see what other counties, we're almost Metropolitan County now, see what the other
I'd
counties.
lay something else on Lauren,
Here we
but
go.
a graph like this on the commercial side would be absolutely wonderful.
So I
Get rid of
actually
things.
have some of this stuff. I told you, this is why, I know I drive you guys crazy sometimes, but this is why I talk, because I have so much information I wanna share, and I think it's important, so. Okay, so you want the way commercial's set up right now?
And that can be amended along with
Well, you
residential.
got that in your back
And
pocket
what,
right now?
and what,
Not right this minute, but it's on my computer.
Are you setting that
Can't
for a
you take
hard
your phone
30
and print
days,
it
or
and
is
go
that
pick it
just
up?
like 30 days and we'll?
Sadly, it's in a big spreadsheet, I think, so.
So,
It's in that binder too.
Well, it can't be the next meeting, cause I've got.
I think the motion on the floor, is we defer for 30 days
Yes.
while we get the commercial, brought in with recommendations and an analysis of what other counties around us are doing that are equal size and growth. That's the way I understand that. If I'm not correct, tell me, and if I am correct, all in favor of doing that, say aye. Opposed? Okay, well, put that on the agenda for next time.
Is there, Mr. Chairman, is there a possibility, Lauren, to email those of us on the committee that information prior to the
advance.
meeting?
I can try, yeah, let me go. You guys have more things on your agenda, right?
2 more.
Two more.
I'll be back.
we can vote to put it off.
Uh,
I may have some that you need.
Next item, and it may take a little time, is excuse the use of the land use plan, the draft document. You brought the map up, right?
I did, yes,
The-
sir.
As we stand right now. I'm just gonna share my thoughts and then some thoughts of a person that's on the planning commission. I like lines on maps, I like departure lines, or, phase lines and all that, that's the way I grew up. And apparently that's not the way GRNC works on it, and I talked to, what's her name?
Jessica Hill.
Yeah, Jessica, and I said, can you reduce that 160 acres to 40 acres? You did that, can you reduce it down to 10 acres, dividing the 4 again? And she said she couldn't, without a lot of reprogramming, whatever. I said, well, what are you gonna do when we get through with it like it is? You're gonna smooth these lines out, so then that in the line between the pink and a green or whatever, so. But anyway, he brought the map up. There were some comments made to me that some things need to be plotted out on the map, and I want y'all to think with me a minute. There's a rock quarries in the county that cannot be used. There's land that's owned by the rock quarry that is not quarried, that can't be used, as in that zone, they do blasting. And it's a concern, just like we had with the flood study. We don't want anybody to get flooded, we don't want somebody to get the windows rattled out of the house every day. So that might all be blacked out. Our landfill, our thoughts, his thoughts, your people out of the commission, well, that needs to be somewhere on the map, in some color that developer buys something next to it, develops it, and people buy houses, and the next thing they know, they got them over like that. Can't hardly stand because the backyard bumps up to a landfill, so that needs to be properly marked on there. And I talked to Chris a little bit about the drip fields. How big a drip? I called you, they said, how much? If you have 100 houses, what's the ratio of size, acreage? I know it has different types of land, but acreage per house, acreage per
Yeah, so
100 houses.
usually, I mean, they throw the dart at about 1 acre will provide public sewer about 17 homes.
1 acre for 17 homes, so that's 6 acres to 100 homes.
Yeah.
And we got how many drip fields in the county?
Well, we got over 40 state operating permits, probably getting close to 50 now.
Should they not be marked accordingly also?
Oh, on the map?
Where people, yeah, I'm thinking.
Yeah. I
So
think-
anyway, that's what
How
was
would
passed
you
to me.
wanna mark them? Because
Black 'em
right
out,
now,
color
those drip
them.
fields are for in perpetuity unless I
I know that,
come up with something, they're undevelopable.
Well,
I
there's-
understand that, but people don't know where they are, what I'm thinking. Map it, it was just blacked
Any
out.
place you see a cluster of houses, there's one.
You'll know. July.
We understand that, Chris. We totally understand that.
that's not,
That-
I'm just thinking, you're talking about marking it on our land use plan to identify people, and these things are very small acreage, and we're marking with 40-acre hexes. One hex is gonna cover the entire development, more or less, drip field.
That may not be necessary, but the discussion that was had with me was, you develop drip field right here, develop it some housing, somebody gonna come develop on the other side next year or something, and it'd be backed up to a drip field. That's just to have marked, that's all. You said, have something, Chris?
I just didn't want to mislead you in thinking that just because there's a drip area out there that it's going to be public sewer availability. Okay, that's not necessarily the case, but I think what you're trying to identify is that, this is a drip area, so you want to notify whoever buys a home in that area.
Well, if we have a land use plan and the planning commission don't sit up there and look at permit somebody that I don't know a drip field's gonna be in the backyard, or the lake's gonna flood, you got 8 inches in 24 hours, so.
I understand.
So it's just so that it's so marked, so. Comment, questions?
Just a question for Chris, make sure I understand something about these drip fields, it really doesn't apply to this. But the drip field could be a mile, 2 miles away from where the homes are built, or as long as you can pipe it to it, correct?
That
As
is
long as
correct.
they can provide the means to do that.
Yeah, right, in your area, below growth treatment, the membrane plant treats it, and then we push it all out, clean effluent out in all the different drip areas. That is correct.
So the homes could be miles away
Well, I
from
understand
the
that.
drip.
The drip area is what we were talking about.
Yeah,
So somebody didn't build in the backyard of it, so. Any comments, or questions, or thoughts, or discussion?
As far as any comments, I'm going to, anything you all have on the land use plan, I am going to relay to the land use steering committee on April 3rd. So if you
Okay.
want to be notified of them, here's what I'm doing. I'm also relaying to them the comments that I've gotten from the board of zoning appeals members and the planning commission members. Told them at that time.
Is any other category of non-usable land that should be marked on that land we plan map? Did anybody know?
Oh,
Like a quarry, or the landfill, anything else anybody can think of? We're paying a whole lot to get that map and there to develop it, we wanna, I would think we'd wanna have it all inclusive, so,
I have one question.
please.
Chris, when do you think it'll go before the planning commission, and the planning commission ultimately approve?
the final draft,
Yeah.
depending on some of the direction that I get from my land use steering committee at April 3rd, my rough agenda going forward is to have a draft 3 presented to the county commission, just a draft, for their perusal, kind of as a work session. That would be before your April county commission meeting. And then we will have another steering committee after that to address those concerns, either, yes, we agree with these, no, we don't wanna have some of these changes, to get a final draft out of that, and that'll go to the public, that's come back to the steering committee. So ideally, in a perfect vacuum, it would be June planning commission. I don't think I'm gonna be able to meet that deadline, I think based off what I've heard, it'll probably be pushed a month, but in a vacuum, it would be the June planning commission, that would make it go before county commission in July,
But
for final approval.
and I have a little communication problem with Jessica and her people, but we're looking at future planning, we're not just looking at the status.
Right, yeah, no,
Right.
we're looking at what you see for the next 25 years, the 25-year vision of the county for the future, not what's on the ground currently. I have a cheat sheet that I've been asked to create, and I can pass that out. It shows, based off the place type districts that we have on that land use plan, what would be allowed with the future place types with our current zoning. Like what districts would be allowed in it, and I can pass that out if you want it, if not, don't care, I brought it. But that kind of gives you an idea of what would be allowed if we adopted the land use plan and didn't change a single thing with our zoning ordinance. What would be allowed in each one of those districts.
Pleasure committee?
One question, Chris. Would it be in the best interest of the county and the citizens that this plan be updated every so many years
Need to be
by
reviewed.
resolution?
You can put that in there, and I'm fine with that.
I mean, I don't know the
I'm
year.
gonna play on a few words. I don't know if I wanna use the word updated. I'm fine with saying reevaluated.
Reviewed,
Well, that would be,
reviewed.
Because I'm not saying that there would be changes every
oh,
5 years.
I get it, and
Yeah.
depending on what happens, especially how the economy.
But no, we can make that a part of. the
But
land
you
use
see
plan.
where we're at today, the
Yes, sir.
situation we're in, we don't need to put the county in this situation at a time like. What would be your recommendation of how often it should be updated? Is there a
Well, it
point?
should, I mean, typically they're
Review.
supposed, the general rule of thumb is every 5 to 7 years. If you wanted to make sure it got reviewed at 5 to 7 years, you would make it 5 years, and then year 4, I would pull the planning and zoning committee together to start that review.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
my question.
Yes.
Thank you.
Cause it would take, I don't know if it would have to, I'm assuming it would have to, any revisions to it would have to go back out to the public. It would not be like a 4 quadrants public.
But if we set a, whether it be 4 and 5, 5 and 6 years, whatever, but if we set a date where it has to be evaluated and then a date where it has to be completed by
Drop dead done.
12 months should allow plenty of time. for-
Yeah, that's why I would start it at
That's what
4
I'm saying.
years.
So
yes.
that's the way our resolution should sort of read if we add that to a resolution.
Well, I mean, you would make it a part of your approval of the land use plan.
Yeah.
Make it part of
I
the official
understand that,
document.
but I'd want it, if the county puts it as a resolution, it becomes county law, more or less. And it would have to be followed.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know
So,
how
am
freestanding
I right,
resolution
Mike?
would
Yeah,
apply
the
to
res,
land
you're gonna
use.
have a resolution that approves the land use plan.
Yeah,
You talk about that, but you'll actually vote on the resolution,
yeah,
and that's what we.
Okay.
yeah, okay.
There's nothing about
And
it.
it'll be in good hands with you. while I'm-
But we all know the situation we're in because we went so many years without
Would that
taking hold.
The next revision might not be like this.
review and update what we're talking about?
Better not be.
Commissioner?
Yes, sir. I just have a question on, just to kind of get y'all's pulse on it. Kind of following up on what Tommy was asking. When we get this land use plan finalized and approved and we say this is it for the county, is there anything that would stop us from saying, and you may or may not agree with this, is there anything that would stop us from saying, and by the way, you gotta have a supermajority of the county commission voting to amend it for the first X number of years.
Say that again?
So,
17
so we
years.
set the land use plan and then we turn around and amend it 30 days later. Why'd we set it anyways? You know what I mean?
The planning commission owns the land use plan.
Now,
It's
what
not
I,
really a product of the county commission.
what I'm hopeful of, and I may be wrong, maybe need to be corrected, is that we can approve, the county commission can approve the land use plan. And if we approve it, then in toto, then the planning commission ought to have the final authority, shouldn't even have to come back to us for anything rezoning within those zones.
And that's the way it's gonna work, and
Well, no, any rezoning still.
Yeah,
well,
Planning
We
commission
would
is
still
just
have to
issuing a
amend the land use
recommendation.
plan.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit it.
that's the plan.
So that's my question. If they come to us in 30 days after we've approved it and want us to amend it, why'd we approve it?
Well,
You
why,
don't-
why should we amend it in 30 days?
You
If
don't-
we're going through all
You
this
don't know
study,
what's coming.
Right.
Who's gonna
We-
show
we
up at
need
his
to-
door?
he needs to tell them, and we need to tell them, hey, we've approved this plan with a tremendous amount of study put into it, you know, come back 5 years, when we review it, and we'll consider.
That's what I'm saying.
Modifying
If
it.
something did show up that was worth amending it for, that maybe we should need a super.
And it will. There's gonna be some big industry's gonna come in, and say, we're gonna bring you millions and millions of dollars,
They just
not
found
like
us.
Steelwood, but others. Sorry,
That's only one time. I'm
Yeah, I know.
impressed.
I know. But that very well could happen.
Yeah.
It very well could, so. Any other comment? What did you come up with? You just printed off the stack?
What I just handed you,
Commercial.
those are the building permit
There you
fees, which is exactly what AFT is for commercial. So with that piece of paper, that's our current fee structure, and you can take a look at that, and then along with the numbers that you already have on that other sheet with the number of commercial properties over the last 6 years,
So,
you can kind of play with it.
so,
You'd have to go back, I would assume, I don't know who would have the records as to how big each piece of property was that we already approved. And that way you could actually figure out,
what the revenue would be?
right, exactly. So,
Well, as it stands right now,
but that gives you.
we got
the numbers.
documents, and I hope that Chris will come back 30
Yeah.
days with a recommendation to update this status sheet based on what other counties are doing, or whatever we need for our county, if our
Right.
county.
Rutherford and Sumner, really.
Pardon?
Wonder what Rutherford and Sumner do.
That's what I asked him.
Some,
Yeah.
summer won't be very high because,
That's what
yeah,
I
he
asked
just
him.
won't, they're behind.
Are they? Don't look at Rutherford either, cause I mean, they did property tax last year, they had to overcome all this, so. What they
Well,
were doing wasn't working, they had to go to the property
if-
tax.
If he and she roll this into the big scheme of things, minus property tax would increase this to generate the same amount of money, I mean, it's all a dream, we just
Yeah.
gotta go out there and
I
look
mean,
at that
if you're
crystal ball.
if you're looking to amend the commercial side and you're trying to stay in line with what Tommy was saying, is you're not trying to hurt the mom and pop or the local builder.
Right,
Right now, a 4,500 square foot structure is what would be equivalent to $5,000. Right now, we have a minimum, so anytime a mom and pop comes in and does a 1,000 square foot addition, an 800 square foot addition, because they're growing, they get charged $5,000, which would be the equivalent to anybody else doing a 4,500 square foot structure.
but it's the large ones we won't bring.
Right, I mean, the large ones, they get so far above this anyways.
Okay.
If
You're
you're-
saying if they wanted to put 500 feet on, we're still charging them 5,000?
Absolutely, yes, sir. We just charged a gentleman, he put 180 square feet on, we charged him $5,000.
Your charge is bringing back
No, for his
recommendations.
business. What'd you say?
I said your charge is bringing back a recommendation.
Okay.
What you think? Here's the big picture thing. Diane's boyfriend, that big ugly guy that we call the school superintendent, gonna come in next year and say, hey, we need another school.
He's going to.
I know it is, and we're gonna need revenue to build that school.
We don't need another school.
We don't
Because
right now, but we will. I mean, it's coming.
It ain't in Watertown.
We got one in Lebanon building.
Huh?
We got one in Lebanon building.
And I appreciate you bringing it to everybody's attention, but the fact is, there's gonna be something have to go with that. We can't move the building to Mountain Dew.
Well, then he's gonna want a new.
Pardon?
Then he'll just want a new, school board.
Amen.
Cheaper to build a school.
Amen. Okay, anything else on that subject? Let's move on to the last one. You wanna take this one, the
I
PUD?
can, this is just for discussion purposes, you all wanted to leave it on the agenda, and I think it could be moved to next agenda if you don't wanna talk about it. But it's just the possibility of amending some of our PUD language. We've had issues with the big thing that came up with, the most pressing thing was the Cumberland Oaks development, because they had to ask for 6 variances, which, you know, that had heartburn with some commissioners on why do we have a PUD that they're still having to request so many variances for. We can build stuff in where that can be approved at planning commission level. There can be leniencies if they're willing to offer certain infrastructure improvements or certain guarantees with conservation of land. We can build some of those variances in, we can give and take from developers, and that can all be written into the language. I just don't know if you all want me to just take a stab at it based off what I've seen,
Amen.
or if you want me to have some sort of direction you wanna head,
You know better.
send me on that.
Does the committee have a recommendation to the
Well,
chief of planning that
I mean,
he comes, it comes back?
I don't know if we're gonna get another plan unit development in Wilson County, where we just had 2 almost back to back. And, it just seemed like to me that we didn't really ask for anything much in as far as any infrastructure, any improvements in infrastructure. And I worked in Mount Juliet for a while, and they're really good at it. Mount Juliet, we're really good at that in Lebanon, and maybe they could help. It's got to be negotiated by staff. I mean, we can't do this in committee. There's
How
just
do
no
we give-
way.
How do we give him the latitude to do that?
Well, we got
I mean-
2 cities that are absolutely
Right.
experts at it, I can tell you that. I mean,
Yeah,
No,
they
you
are.
can get,
What-
Chris.
I'm having
Yeah.
PTSD back here from planning.
We've got an expert at it actually in our audience for that matter, but I mean, a PUP is an open negotiation to give up density for something the county wants. And if you're gonna give up density anyway, I mean, you know, why not have a clear vision of what it is we need, whether it be a school site or a WEMA site or a library or whatever.
I think when you hit a certain acreage, like 100 acres, you ought to have a part of it for park or something. But anyway,
Well, right now, our PUD, you can't even start thinking of a residential PUD until you get to 100 acres. I mean, there's been talks of, is that too strict? Are we going to allow PUDs on smaller acreages or not?
Well, one of the advantages about talking to the folks in Mount Juliet and Lebanon is that we're all in the same county, obviously, in the development community that interacts with all three entities, you know, to be kind of on the same wavelengths. And like I said, Mount Juliet's almost all planning unit developments, and I think all Lebanon apartments are planning unit developments, so that's most of their development recently. So they've gotten pretty good at it. It might be a place to start, is to just say, hey, maybe you would like to set up a staff meeting, maybe
workshop.
amongst just staff and just talk about it and then maybe report back or something. I mean, we can't negotiate this on the committee, that's just impossible. It has to be between
The
staff.
only thing we can do is take his recommendation.
Right.
But
There's another
If-
job, Christopher.
You got anything to do?
you got a good assistant down there, Chris?
I've got a couple of good ones.
Do you? Okay.
I would hate to see the commission give up final approval on those things, Chris.
Bud.
You would hate, say that again?
Commission to give
I
a
would
final
hate to see the commission give up final
Well,
approval on those things.
You would not be
You
giving up
wouldn't.
final approval of the PUD, you just would not be
New criteria.
seeing so many variances in the PUD.
Cause they'd be
New-
taking care
new
of what we
criteria.
got to.
Well, I guess for me to be on board with that, I'd have to see go variance by variance. To
Well,
some of them are more important than
It's the
others.
difference.
if we're gonna word it, it would be outlined to the developer on the upfront, like, if you want this, this is what
This
you're
is
gonna
what you gotta
provide
do.
at a minimum.
That's right.
So that way it wouldn't be a variance request, it's like, okay, so when it gets to the commission, you all would see, okay, they're getting a density bump of 0.24 units per acre. Well, you all know, based off of our PUD language, if they're getting that density bump, this is what the county's getting at a minimum.
Correct.
That would be the stuff that I think you all are asking to see in the PUD,
Riggs.
yes, you're just in the regs flat out.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're, I mean, you'd still have to make the ultimate decision on the rezoning, the county.
Well, I understand about the
Yeah.
rezoning, but, so what you're saying is you're just gonna create a threshold.
Well, I mean, there's thresholds in there, I
But you're gonna
think
change
you all
those
want more,
thresholds.
yeah, yes. I think you all want more strict thresholds where it's like, if you get to this threshold, this is what you're gonna have to require, or you can go somewhere else and develop it.
Try again.
As opposed to saying, okay, we don't wanna meet that threshold, can we ask for a variance?
Do we need to, when you say a workshop, or we said a workshop, I said, do we need to, how many folks were we talking about getting together from the other cities?
I think he just said it was staff, which that would just be their planning department, and I can reach out to Sumner County and Rutherford, I don't know how their codes are set up. They're county based, I know City 11 and City 1, you know, that's a municipal code, so it might have some different outline, but I can reach out to the county
That's where I'd
planners and
start,
see-
those two.
I can reach out to the county planners as well and just see if I can meet
I
them
know
for
what
lunch
they're
one day
doing.
and chat.
What I was wondering, how many folks you think will come to
More
this?
rich than I think we'll ever get to, but
That's where-
I've got a copy of theirs already.
We don't need to be going towards the Sumner Rutherford problem, is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
How many folks you think will come to this to advise us?
I don't know, are you providing food?
Yes, that's what I'm getting ready to offer.
He has no money in his budget. for
I
it.
know that. That's what I get ready to offer, I mean, but I don't want about 25 meals and 100 show up.
Tell them to have another one of
Right.
the orange shindigs he used to have.
No, you can't
Everybody
have
got steak.
Can't have more than that one out of moonshine.
Everybody got fresh steak on the plate.
But just kinda look and see what I can do, we'll talk offline,
Yeah,
see where
that's
we
fine.
put something together.
Can we get CEUs?
I am working on that, but no, that would not qualify for that. That's just you donating your time.
Okay, we've gone through everything that the chair knows we need to talk about, any other subject, new business that we need to discuss. No new business, do we have any other old business? Do we have a motion?
Motion adjourned.